aviation, and nation building, yung usaping corruption, multinationals, and the medical practice.
Well, I think it's basically just taking on the pharmaceutical industry and fighting them, and so that is going to solve the issue of poverty. I thought that, well, that's a formidable task, but if it is personal at the personal level, and I have my limits, I set my limits. There are things that I will do with the drug company. There are things that I can never allow. And for as long as I am in direct contact with my patients, and my patients are happy, and I am just, I charge them the right way. I don't do orders that are unnecessary. I give them the medicine that is what is best. I think if each one of us has that kind of value, I think you don't even have to fight the pharmaceutical industry. But it's a formidable task because the industry is very seductive. But you say that to alleviate poverty in a more tumbok way is to fight them. Well, it's going to be very, very difficult. But I think it's much easier to fight them this way.
Dr. Eugene, I have a question related to Mom's question. You talked of two types of poverty. A poverty of the spirit, which you referred to as a poverty, an impoverishment that doctors have at one point in their lives, and a poverty of material possessions. How do you in TMC deal with, how do you capacitate both doctors and patients to attack both types of poverty?
You provide the venue where doctor and patient sees each other and talk to each other. So we can have that in many ways. We can have that in terms of what we call the multidisciplinary family conference, which the patients love. The patients love, especially if it happens to be cancer, that their opinion is actually very, very important. The decision is going to be theirs, actually. And that's what we really have been doing. And we still have to perfect that. We still have to make sure that everyone gets into that, because not all our staff is into that yet. No? So we still have some stretch. The other one is when we get our doctors to really, as a group, with a group of patients, the diabetics, the hypertensives, the ones with cancer, and all this, the different kinds of cancer. And then we have a venue for them. We have a center for patient partnership where we actually, they really are able to bring up their questions and they're answered. Not in a way that it is the doctor who is always right, but in a way that actually also educates the doctors. When I talk about the healing, there's no mention that the doctor is the healer and that the patient is the one healed. It's actually both ways. The one who heals is actually himself healed. And that is the kind of thing that doctors should, parang second wind. When you start feeling that, you just would like to be a doctor forever. And that's precisely why I left the pharma industry. I could have stayed on and really be wealthy. But no, I realized, I really just wanted to be a doctor.
There's a question here, doctor, that's related. How do we maintain the fire within us all throughout medical school and in our practice?
Yes, I think it's important that you are fed with good things along the way. You have to have role models. You have to have people who inspire you. One of the reasons why I left Bristol Myers Squibb was because I had 4 general managers. And each one, I said, what will I learn from this guy? The last one was much younger than I am, and I learned from him how to handle the balance sheet. He was a businessman. But after that, I did not learn anything from him anymore. And he started to get on my nerves, and that's why I quit. I think it's important that somewhere along the journey, you always have touch points that feeds on something in you, because otherwise you can lose that. You can lose that.
There's one more question.
I want to clarify the point. Dahil napakalagang punto yan. Para sa akin, doon sa usaping touch and was it listening you were saying? Hindi lang yung touch and listening. Kung there's maraming magdodoktor dito, mga doktor, there's a more fundamental issue, and that's the issue of respeto. Marami sanang doktor medyo bawa-bawan yung pagkataas ng ihi nila. You know, like they have all the answers. Yung makikinig sa tao, pero kung anong nararamdaman ko, mas alam niya. Putragis. Ako kaya ito nakakaramdam nito. Yung ganoon. Parang doctors seem to think of themselves, many doctors, think of themselves like parang demigods na I have all the answers, kid, you better listen to me. Yung ganoon. So,
Yes,
respeto.
that's right.
Ang pangalawa, doon sa tugon mong mahirap banggaing harap-harapan yung multinationals. Hindi yan ang punto ko eh. Malaking kurakot ang nangyayari sa ganong klaseng korupsyon ng multinational sa doctoring industry. But para sa akin, nahan ngayon yung political will at spiritual will, if we may, ng doktor mismo. Kasi tulad ng average Pinoy na naiinis sa pamalaan dahil sa kurakot, sino nagbibigay ng lagay? Doon rin sa mga doktor, di ba? O siya, naglalagay ang mga multinationals, but sino ang tumatanggap? So, ang self-policing rin ng mga doktor, ang aking mungkahing panglipunan, manindigan nila yung doktor. Linawin nila sa kalooban nila, ano ba talaga ang papel nila? Sila ba'y sugo ng multinational o vehicle? O talagang tunay silang naninilbihan sa kapwa?
Yes. So that's a big thing.
It's a suggestion that we might like
It starts
to...
from medical school. It should start at the level of medical education, actually.
Do we have questions on this side? From the students? Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. First, it's an honor to hear your lecture and to be at the same room with you and Dr. Beck. So, my question, sir, is you were mentioning that to stop perpetuating establishing charity wards, because as you said, it's being institutionalized.
It is institutionalized. The accreditation committee of the different colleges, of the Philippine College of Medicine, Philippine College of Surgeons, they would still, when they go visit, they will say, where are your charity beds?
Sir, how do you think, what do you think we can do to answer that? If we should remove charity wards, how can we continue training people or medical students? How do we answer that if we want to stop that, or to stop the perpetuation of using poor in spirit or poor people, poor in spirit and property? Thank you, sir.
Well, what I have been doing is I am the Philippine College of Physicians president. And it's not easy because when you start doing things like that, you still also have to tackle the past presidents, the established, the ones who have really been around for a long time. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to pursue. That, you know, we can train them because nakikita natin, yung mga, for instance, yung mga nasasanay sa government hospitals, nakikita nilang napakaraming kaso. Pwede silang magkamali, pwede silang kulang. It's not ideal anyway. Okay? And so what happens there is that they are not able to, they're not able to connect to the patients. The patient is just a meat. You know? Mukhang may nana, bigyan natin ng antibiotic. You know? Medicine is not just science. Medicine is about interaction. You get a lot from interacting with patients. Ang nangyayari sa mga doctors na train in government hospitals, nakikita ko talaga ito, compared to people, my colleagues in Medical City who were trained in private hospital, is that the people who are trained in private hospitals are able to talk and communicate well regardless of whether you're rich or you're poor. People who are exclusively trained in government hospitals, they are find it so difficult to adjust, to talk with people who are of their same level. Madali sila kung mahirap. Pero pag medyo edukado na, nahihirapan na. They come out as technical, very technical, walang soul. And I think that's what makes a good doctor is not just about the science that he knows, but about how he is able to correct. And so, mali talaga